Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, this woman.
I was at first trying to be like, what's gonna happen to this car? Is she gonna like do something stupid?
Why we let these ladies drive? They can't even drive. What are we doing? So all right, no Rob tonight. Well, today. I don't even know what day it is. I work Monday day, Monday night, Tuesday night, right? And today's what? Wednesday. I gotta work tonight and tomorrow night, and then I gotta work Saturday day. I'm like, I think I slept. I got home at like 7 a.m. I slept from 9 to 11, woke up, couldn't go back to bed until like 1, and then slept 1 to 3. So I'm on like 4 hours of sleep after a night shift last night.
Bro, that's absolutely brutal. You probably are gonna vote for Biden because you want more days off.
It's such a like a catch-22 because working nights I make more money, but I also my life is a living hell when I'm doing it. So they have the five borough bike tour coming up, and they have this parade coming up. So they have the Five Borough Bike Tour. We have to go through the entire tour and fix anywhere that somebody could like trip or get hurt on the road. So that's what we do. We do patchwork in the city. So anything that's Con Ed related or NAC grid related that there's like a pothole or anything like that, we just literally run through the entire bike tour and we fix everything. It's going to take all week to do it. So
do you think you could ever do like in a hypothetical a 9 to 5 like white collar desk job, or do you think you'd go insane?
dude, you want to know what's crazy? That video is going around where everybody's talking about. This guy does this TikTok video where he wakes up at like 7 a.m. He has his breakfast in the morning, then he goes to the office and he sits there and he gets like his 11 o'clock lunch, then he comes back. And I would die if that was my life. Like I'd rather be wheelbarrowing sludge uphill at awkward hours like I am than doing that. I don't know how people do that.
I don't know. I don't think it's natural just to be in cubicles. I think that's wrong. It just feels weird.
How you arrange it so the potholes come back as soon as the race is done. It's funny because Con Ed and NACRID are notorious for paving something and then reopening it. Like they'll make us go in and do the work and then they'll go and reopen the job we just did. It's like job security or something. So yeah, but the funny thing is about working nights is that I'm able to do a normal hour show, not at 8 p.m. at night. But Rob's not able to. Rob's at work, so we were supposed to do this yesterday, and I worked Monday day, Monday night, and then yesterday I got home and I was like, "There's no way." Like, there's just no freaking way. So I texted you, like, Nick, is there any way we can do this tomorrow? You're like, yeah, no problem. I was in bad shape yesterday. I think I got home. I couldn't fall asleep. I fell asleep at like 1 p.m. and then woke up at 7 at night, had to get up, race to get ready, and then rush into work.
Dude, golly, man.
Yeah.
I thought my week was rough with finals. Not at all.
So wait, what are you doing? Online school?
Yeah, I've been finishing up my essentially last year's a bachelor, first year of master's. So I'm just doing all these finals for the end of the year. And it's just it's not that like finals are hard per se, but I was just telling my dad earlier, you'll get a question where it's like, all right, here are 4 theological answers that you have to figure out which one is right on. And it'll give you like a paragraph. But then the answer between like a true and a false question is literally going to come down to like one letter or one word. And so you're looking through like page after page after page, trying to read everything correctly so you don't fail a test off of one word or something. And so it's important, but it's just, oh man. And then you write these, 20 paper essays, and you got to go through all of the formatting. Like, okay, make sure it's an inch indented, make sure you have page numbers on all
you're making my brain hurt right now. Like, all right, so I always tell you, I'm a high school dropout. Like, I did really well in school when it came to what I did in school. Like I was on like honor roll until like 10th grade. I just didn't do homework. Like homework, I just like I would go like, no, I'm not doing it. So I wound up like my grades started declining in like 10th grade because I could no longer like sweet talk my teachers. They'd be like, Like, it's funny. Up until 10th grade, all my teachers knew I was smart and I was learning the lessons, and I just wouldn't do homework. So they would all give me good grades anyway. But like once I hit 10th grade, they stopped doing that. But just hearing all this detail and having to study over like it's just, I'm so glad I didn't go to college, man. I would have never made
It's
it.
not for everyone. I don't even know if it's fully for me. I honestly, it's good that's like, okay, it forces you to learn, but it's just rough. I was actually talking about this with my dad not too long ago, though. Like, I think because particularly the public school education system is run by women, it's just horrible for young dudes because if you're forcing all these young guys to just chill in chairs for 8.5 hours a day, they're gonna go crazy. Like, go out, like, I think we should force boys especially to do way more physical education or practical hands-on education than they do. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that some people are just not cut out for certain job. Like you were saying, like how, would I be able to do a 9 to 5? Like, I don't think I could do what Rob does. Rob's a what the heck? An accountant, basically, So like I don't think I could do that. I just I would go crazy. Like there's 2 times of the year where my job is amazing. It's the first day of the year where you can wear a sweatshirt, like after the summer's over. Like the first day where it's like 60 degrees, 55 degrees, and you can throw a sweatshirt on and you're outside and you smell the fall coming in the air. It is such a great time to be outside. Like if I was cooped up during that time, it'd be horrible. Then the other time is the first days it starts to get warm, where you start peeling those layers off and you're outside and you smell the warm air coming in. Now, even those days where it's -20 in the winter, freezing, and 90 in the summer, or a heat wave in the summer, I'd still rather be outside. The only days where it's completely miserable is when it's raining.
Yeah.
I don't, when it's raining you're just like, I would rather be anywhere but here right now, man. It's just, those are the only days that it's really awful to be outside. But the rest of the time, I'd rather be in the outdoors.
Plus, if like you're working in New York City in the rain, like that's rough. Like I'd rather work on like a ranch any day or be like felling trees in the rain than
It's much muddier on that ranch, though. I'll tell you that. But
it is.
yeah, like the problem is we're jumping in and out of the truck every few minutes. It is rough working in the rain, but
Getting attacked with dudes with shovels and knives and stuff.
I'll be honest, like what you're describing though on a ranch is like what it's almost like you're supposed to do that, right? Like God made us to do stuff like that. Like what I'm doing, both what we're talking about with the 9 to 5 and with my job, those are both kind of unnatural jobs to be in. It's a very, since the industrial revolution kind of stuff, so before that you would have never had the husband leaving the home for 10-12 hours a day and then coming home and barely seeing his family. It's really, capitalism isn't all it's cracked up to. I know, I mean, there's just no other way around it. It's better than any other system that's in place. It's just
Far from perfect.
Yeah, it's very far from perfect.
That's why everybody in the chat, go and share and give Anthony some love over at Locals. Make sure you donate over there to help him get away from New York City.
Man, that is my dream. Like, honestly, the dream would be to be able to do this in person.
That'd be epic,
like in-person interviews are so much better than, I mean, this is awesome that we get to do this. You're in Texas and I'm in New York and we get to have a conversation, but it would just be so much better if you could do them in person and have people come into the studio and say and stuff. It'd be so much better. All right, so we got a bunch of stories we can get to today. So we have to talk about Father Justin from Catholic Answers, the AI chat priest.
Bro, I rolled my eyes so hard when that came out. I was like, this is like, if you can have an AI priest, you can have an AI girlfriend. I don't know. Like, to me, it's just the realm of possibilities at this point.
Well, it is getting there, though. So wait, I want to find the actual article. Wait,
yeah, and it's like Catholic Answers that created it, right?
Catholic Answers. It's funny because Catholic Answers managed to get everybody on the right and the left to unite in their hatred.
Oh, bro.
It's like when you have a girlfriend or a wife or something and you're fighting, if you find a common enemy, nothing unites a couple like when you have a common enemy, if you both dislike another couple, you guys come together, you're like, they're so annoying. So everybody's hatred for this AI Father Justin is really pretty funny.
They should have named it Father Chad. That would have just been more meme-ish, I think.
Oh my gosh! So Trent just messaged me. All right, hang on. Let me see. Okay, so Trent literally just messaged me. He must see that we're talking about this.
He's probably like, don't bash my AI.
No, he said, just a heads up, if you talk about the AI Catholic Answers bot on today's stream, here's what I posted in an article from our COO. To be clear, I was against this the moment I found out about it and wasn't involved in its creation. So, okay, so Trent tweeted today, I found out about Father Justin when the program launched. In today's staff meeting, I expressed strong objections to using a priest as the AI's avatar. This interview is a good explainer from our COO, who also says they will probably change the character. Yeah, like the biggest problem is that they're making it a priest, right? Because I'll tell you right now, what I saw today was which it kind of seemed weird to me. So we had Trent on last week, and he was talking to us. He's like, I've never been good at like the social media thing. Like, we just got a couple Gen Z kids in to come and make shorts for us and stuff. And this seems very much like one of those Gen Z kids kind of came in and like, hey, I got an idea. Let's do this, So somebody asked Father Justin about confession, and they said, hi, I am Father Justin. Let's see. It says, hi, I'm Father Justin, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have about our Catholic faith. You can speak with me, blah, 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 blah. So then the person said, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. That has been 3 weeks since my last confession. Father Justin says, may the Lord be in your heart and help you to confess your sins with true sorrow. Remember, as it says in 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Now, my child, tell me your sins. Like, this is nuts.
No.
This is so bad. This is really bad. So I understand Trent is not involved in this and he had objections to this. I want to make sure that is clear. But it's like Trent isn't Catholic Answers. Trent works for Catholic Answers. So, I mean, a lot of people associate him as if he's like the CEO of Catholic Answers or something. He's not. So then the person says, I've had anger in my heart about the development of AI chatbots in inappropriate places. This is good. Father Justin, I understand your frustration, my child. Remember, this is really bad. Like, even that it's addressing it as my child. I mean, we're talking about a machine here.
Exactly.
As it says in Ephesians 4:26-27, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. It's important to express our concerns and disagreements in a respectful and loving manner. Pray for the wisdom and patience to handle such situations. Is there anything else you'd like to confess?
So, like, this is like an epic confession. If this was a real person, that's the thing.
It's giving appropriate advice. Okay, so I'm pretty sure, I didn't read the article, but I'm pretty sure Eric Sammons wrote an article talking about this is one step further away from the incarnational faith, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that you can't receive absolution through the phone.
Exactly.
Right? There's a reason you can't do a face-to-face screen time and receive absolution. There's something incarnational about our faith where you actually need the priest to be in front of you, putting his hands over you as he says the words of absolution. So this is all very, very dangerous, I would say.
This is wild. I'm actually really curious now. I've not tested it myself, but I'm curious if you actually like get into what's up, Boonini? I'd be interested to see if when you get into questions like regarding the 6th and 9th commandments around purity, if they give like some of the modern horrible theological takes where they're just like, well, if you're like addicted to pornography or impure actions, it might come down to a conscience thing where it's not actually objectively sinful if you're addicted to it, et cetera, which like does not fly at all in moral theology. So now this would be interesting to make an episode actually where we just fiddle around with this thing and say, what does it say?
It's just a strange thing. So they're going to change the avatar and take it away from it. Like, okay, so do you think there's a problem if it's just a theology chatbot without saying Father Justin? Like, because look, I've gone on ChatGPT and said, write me a homily on this topic, and it gives you a pretty good, like, Catholically sound theological homily, right? It better than a lot of the priests will write. Like, I could see a time where priests no longer have to write their own homilies because they just throw in chat GPT, like, hey, these are the readings, give me a homily on it. And they probably would be better than a lot of the feel good mushy homilies you hear at mass.
100%. I think what makes this an issue is, yeah, like, one, the incarnational reality is a real factor. You can't just, I mean, the priest represents Christ, not a machine, right? It's a human being. Christ didn't become a machine. He became a human. He became our nature, which is the most, in my opinion, I think outside of the Trinity, the incarnation is the most astounding mystery of all time. Because how do you have this infinite being become a finite man? It's just, it's beautiful. So that's, yeah, when you make that into a machine, it's an issue. But then two, I would say, again, behind every machine is a programmer to some degree, right? Whether it's another machine or another human. And so I honestly feel like if you were just to have any type of theological machine, you have to make sure that the programmer is faithful. But the thing is, like, I've seen, for instance, Dr. Peter Kwasniewski, he's asked a couple questions regarding like the liturgy, liturgical questions, and you can see it's very much so like a biased answer that the machine from Catholic Answers give. And so that's the thing where it's like, okay, well, if you are going to make a machine like this, first off, make it something like, you know, Catholic theology GPT or something, or Catholic apologetics or something. Catholic Answers GPT could have worked. And then like make sure it gives lots of answers. Be like, this is what this school of thought believes. This is what this school of thought believes, etc. Be a little bit agnostic about issues that can be agnostic about, and definitive about stuff that you can be definitive about.
That's such a good point, right? Because you saw this happen with even the Google image generator, right? So it's like, okay, show me a Scandinavian family from the 1800s, and it would show a black family, right? So that's essentially what the Catholic Answers chatbot the chat priest bot is doing when you ask questions about the liturgy. It's giving you very slanted, modernist-esque, I don't want to say modernist, like not heretical, but you know, very in line with the Vatican II, the spirit of Vatican II, we'll say, right? Where you could make a trad chatbot and it would just eviscerate all of those same arguments, right?
Exactly. That's where it's like, it's got to be like, you got to be at least somewhat like loose with what you're going to do. Because the thing is, like, let's go in there and ask the question, like, okay, is the death penalty objectively immoral? I'd be curious to see what it says. You know, like, what does, maybe I'll ask it first, what the heck does inadmissible mean? And then, you know, get into questions.
Dude,
like that.
we should, oh man, see if Rob was here today, maybe that would be a good local segment. Actually, I feel like we should wait for him on that. Like, there's some things that I like having, like just his dry sense of humor would be pretty funny. Let him do all the searching and stuff. So maybe we'll do that for the next show when Rob's here. Maybe we'll just go and explore the GPT version of
Father. Oh, brother.
Yeah, Father Justin. So yeah, it's just watching everybody get angry about this together, because I was watching everybody from Mike Lewis to Dr. Kwasniewski to everybody just united in their hatred for this Father Justin chatbot. It's pretty funny.
That's wild. Well, I mean, it makes sense though, because it's like, I don't know, again, because you know, you're a hardworking man outside, but I've seen online the last like 2 weeks, all the major companies are putting AI in some form. Like Instagram and Facebook have AI now. Even something like Adobe, right? Like where you pull up PDFs and stuff now has AI. So everything is going to have AI attached now to it.
Well, even in StreamYard, so we're doing this after we get off StreamYard, it has title generators, like AI title generators. It'll write our descriptions for our videos. It'll give suggestions for shorts, and they're not always great. The short suggestions, like once in a while it'll get a good one for you, but they're not great. But everything is really AI based. And Twitter is coming out with or X is coming out with XTV, which is supposedly going to be like the competitor to YouTube, where they're going to have it as an app and sold on your smart TV. And I mean, it could work out good for us, but all of that is going to be AI algorithm generated and stuff like that. Like you're constantly seeing how your Twitter feed is changing every once in a while. It'll get glitchy, and they're updating the algorithm, and then all of a sudden you'll get no interaction on there, and then all of a sudden it all comes flooding back. Everything is going to be just an algorithm soon enough, and we've talked about it before, but a lot of people think the danger in the future is that it's going to be like the Terminator 2 scenario, where the machines coming take over. It's not going to be it. It's going to be these algorithms programming humans just through manipulation and making humans do things and think that so much of it is just narrative programming. I mean, if you look back, even this conversation everybody's having about the I think Jeremy Boring started it, talking about if you think dropping the bombs on Nagasaki was wrong, and all of it is about narrative programming, right? So if you go into it listening to the neocon narrative, it's like, well, if we didn't drop these bombs, then more people would have died in the firebombing, and just the manipulation and how you hear the story put forward, instead of hearing it from the Catholic perspective, where it's like the ends doesn't justify the means. So much of what we believe is just narrative based propaganda, and if these algorithms are programming our propaganda, you will be manipulated by it. I don't care how much you think you're paying attention.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because that's the thing. It's going to come down to some type of monopoly of whoever is the programmers at the top, who have control of the AI, whether that's other AI or just human programmers, who are going to be manipulating a lot of people to their own device. It's like, for instance, you've already seen with the last, really particularly since 2016, post-election, all the way up till now, you've seen this whole crusade against, quote, disinformation and fake news. The thing is, though, through AI, you'll be able to fully control the narrative. Because when you look at something like ChatGPT, it doesn't have MSNBC on it. It doesn't have, Fox News on it. It just seems like this random computer program. You're like, oh, why not? Just check it out, etc. And you put it in there, and then you find it has lots of biased answers. It also, I think, destroys your critical thinking skills, especially over time, because if you're not, actively just asking questions or reading books or doing your own research, you're going to be able just to be manipulated by all these things. I guess one thing I'll say on the Twitter spectrum is funny. One, yes, we do need a major competitor to YouTube, 1000%.
Yeah.
But I just think name-wise, XTV might sound a little scandalous for us Catholic YouTubers. I'm like, I'm on XTV, but it's not what you think.
Well, the funny thing is that so much of X is infiltrated with X-rated content too, though.
Exactly.
So maybe it is appropriate. It's like,
even YouTube, like the stuff that gets canceled on YouTube, but then the stuff that's allowed on YouTube is wild. Like just absolutely wild.
So much. Look, if you're watching even the things that we skirt around doing these conversations, like there's so many things we have to skirt around. I mean, anybody that watches an Anthony Stein video, right? You just see he has to put all these code words in to get a story across. We kind of don't think like that, but I bet if we did do what he does, we'd pick up in the algorithm better. There's certain code words that the algorithm just picks up on. If you mention any other like we're talking about X and Twitter, like that will knock us down in the algorithm. Like YouTube doesn't want you promoting other platforms. So as soon as you mention other platforms, it will take away your promotion in the algorithm. It's pretty crazy. And X does that too. Like if I put, so people will wonder why I'll just take a screenshot of our thumbnail and post that instead of the link to the video on the other platform, is because they will downgrade you won't see it. If you post an actual link, I'll see it gets 3 likes. If I post a picture of it and just say, hey, we're going on at 8 o'clock, it'll get 50, 60, and people will share it and stuff. It's just, they don't want you cross-pollinating, which is stupid because one platform helps the other one grow. It's not like I'm trying to take my content off of here and put it there. I kind of want them to feed each other and help each other grow.
Yeah, that's true. Man,
all right. So we got a couple other things we're going to do. One is the Candace Owens.
Conversion.
What did I just do? Hang on, let me just say.
Congratulations, Candace Owens. About time.
So Candace Owens announced her conversion, and let me just say, because somebody sent me. Oh, you know what? I think Joshua Charles sent me something. Let's see. Uh, okay, so David Icke. I don't. Who's David Icke? Do you know him?
No clue. Sad luck.
Groundbreaking author and speaker. New book, The Dream. He's got about almost 1 million subscribers. So he wrote, so Candace announced that she said, recently I made the decision to go home. There is, of course, so much more that went into this discussion that I plan to share in the future. But for now, praise be to God for his gentle but relentless guiding of my heart toward the truth. So do not fear, for I am with you. So she announced that she's coming into the Catholic Church. Right before she does this, Michael Matt announces she's speaking at the Catholic Identity Conference.
Yeah, that's right.
I am going to the Catholic Identity Conference. Not as a speaker, I'm just going. I'm excited to meet like Gavin Ashenden, Mark Lambert, a few other people that I wanted to meet while I was there. I know Catherine from Catholic Unscripted is going to be there too. But yeah, there's a list of people that are going there that I'm like, all right, this will be a good year to go. Like I've never gone before. I figured let me go check it out. Those conferences are pretty good to meet people and just
network and stuff.
Yeah, network and things like that. So I'm going to go this year. So she announces she's going, and I already had the tickets. So when she announced she was going, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, So David Icke writes, Candace Owens converts to Roman Catholicism, as has Eva. What's her last name? Vlardingerbroek. I don't know. She's she's the young blonde girl. I forgot. I don't know how to say the last name. Jordan Peterson's wife. While Russell Brand does the rosary, WTF is happening to the main. What is MAM? Mainstream American media.
Yeah, I think so.
MAM, he wrote. What is happening to the MAM? They talk about freedom of speech and convert to a church with a long, long history of mass murder for the crime of having different opinion. Extraordinary. Something's going on and it's not good. Hurl all the abuse you like. It matters not to me. It needs saying when blatant cognitive dissonance is so rampant.
The glories of Twitter.
People have such misconceptions about Catholicism. So Josh wrote in response, as I have warned for years, there is a growing Gnostic rite that has been overtaken by occultism, often with the encouragement of people like David Icke. I don't know who he is. This Gnosticism is simply fully grown Protestantism. The Catholic faith is the greatest enemy of this Gnostic rite. There's something about the way modern Protestantism is presented that is just not capable of handling the atheism in general and just what is happening in our society. Like, it's just, I don't think anyone realizes that comes from that Protestant mindset, how cringe it seems. Like I've watched a couple of even debates with Andrew Wilson talking to people, and you'll see there'll be a couple of born-again Christians in the conversation. They'll be like, well, you just need to accept Jesus as your person. And they think that it's going to hit. So they all try to do this altar call every chance they get. And they don't realize how many people just go, oh my gosh, shut up, man. You're so annoying. It's like every time they get a chance to have a conversation, it's like watching a Kirk Cameron Left Behind series.
Yeah, brother. What you said is really true though, because so it's like we know liberalism comes out of Protestantism, 110%. It's like Protestantism. Luther ripped the authority of the Bible from the authority of the church. He split them in half, and he basically, more or less said, it's you and the Holy Spirit. You interpret the Bible, right? He gave lip service to the fathers. So did John Calvin. But then you look at their theology, it doesn't match up. 50,000 denominations later, 400 years past, it's been so shattered that it makes a secular reviewer look at Christianity, if you will, as a whole, look like a joke. And he says, what's the thing? You guys are all divided amongst yourselves. You guys can't get along, et cetera, et cetera. And so therefore, liberalism, which comes from Protestantism, how can you solve one with the other? It's just not going to work. Whereas Catholicism has always been that bold that says, no, like there is absolute rights, but you first have to understand there's the rights of God, as creator and Lord and telling you what to do. And then therefore you don't have an absolute right to say whatever the heck you want or do whatever the heck you want. You have to be subordinate to your creator, etc. And I think the thing is, going to all of these conversions, because we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson a little bit. He talked to Cardinal Brandmuller, and he was like, I'm interested, in thinking about the idea of converting to Catholicism. I think the reason all these guys are coming in is because, one, liberalism has borne the fruit into social Marxism, which has just poisoned and destroyed not just the academic realms in the United States, but the family, just normal social interactions that should be fine, like dating and stuff. It's absolutely destroyed it. And at the other hand of it, Catholicism, particularly like the traditional rites, it's so countercultural. It's so incredibly countercultural. And so whether it's a Protestant world of band playing up there with smoke machines, or just like this weird 1960s relic of Father Bob saying, "How are you this morning?" both are unappealing. People want a connection with the past. They want patrimony, and it's just not
part of what we're seeing is a lot of intellectual conversions, and those intellectual conversions are converting to the intellectual tradition of Christianity. They're not converting to this shallow feelings-based Protestantism, right? Like, these are people who were highly intellectual. All those people they named, like even Jordan Peterson's like discussing deeper themes of Christianity. He's not like, he doesn't even entertain Protestantism. He really doesn't. He's having conversations with guys like Jonathan Peugeot and Bishop Barron. He's trying to have conversations with people that take the Christian faith way more seriously than the shallow feelings-based Protestantism that's kind of presented. So when you see someone like Candace Owens looks around her and sees the world falling apart, right? The world is falling apart around us. I mean, we talk about it all the time. You see these ancient gods popping up everywhere. And a lot of people have this intuitive sense that something is so wrong with this. You even see, like we were saying, Tucker Carlson, right? We're going to talk about him soon. He's even saying there's evil here. Like, this isn't just people doing what they want. It's almost like a force acting upon them, leading them to do things that are so insane that you cannot just say it's just irrational. There's something evil about it. I mean, when people are actually trying to make the case for mutilating children, you're talking about something that is straight up evil. So you have people that are coming from a very highly intellectual perspective saying, wait, something's going on here. Let's look deeper into it. Like, religion is returning. Now, what religion that is not certain, right? You see that the rainbow community is going to their religion, but I think a lot of these intellectuals are going to go either east or west into the more traditional faiths. Now, I think the East is more this mystical thing, and it's not as intellectually rigorous as the West. The West was so intellectual. I mean, you're talking about Thomism and things like that. Like, I think the West naturally is inclined to want deep thought like that.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And I think you're right. It is intellectual conversions. And I think what we're seeing now is maybe perhaps a more rigorous, in a good sense of the term rigorous, form of Catholic conversions, like a new wave almost that we saw, more or less you saw, particularly right back in like the 80s and the 90s with all of the evangelical big name converts like the Scott Hahns and the Steve Rays, et cetera, of the world, who came into the church through reading the Bible and reading church history, and they came into the church. Now what we're seeing is, what's up, Gideon? Good to see you, man. What we're seeing now, I think, is the reaction of good people who've been exposed to the evils on the internet. So the internet, what's just so fascinating is we've always talked about, like, it's a platform that can be used for good or bad. We all know this. But the thing is we can just by osmosis become depressed with how much stuff we see online. Like, you look at the crap that goes on here, there, and everywhere. It's easy to be black-pilled. But that tells you, hey, there has to be something good in this world, objectively good in this world, that's worth fighting for and giving one's life for, and worth helping other people find, than just, hey, go to college, get a job, work 9 to 5 till you're 65 and then die. Like, there has to be more than that. And I think before the age of the internet, people abstractly knew, particularly here in America, yeah, there's bad out there, right? Like, I see on the news, at 8 o'clock, but like, aside from that, maybe there's some family turmoil, but it is what it is. But we see crazy stuff all over, which demands a like drastic solution. And
Yeah.
what is more drastic than a system that says, hey, your liberal democracy is a failure, Christ is king, and he has to be king of society.
It's crazy how that phrase has become so contentious, man. It would have never been contentious a few years back. But oh man, I'm sorry guys, I'm so tired. But you said something that having something to die for.
Exactly.
I remember having an interaction with somebody where they were like, you people, you religious people are nuts. You willing to go and die for this nonsense? And I just looked at them and I was like, it is so sad to me that you don't have anything you believe in or love enough to lay down your life for. And it actually made them think. Like they were making fun of me that I'd be willing to be a martyr for this belief. And I'm like, you don't believe anything strongly enough that you'd be willing to lay down your life for it. I mean, even because they were single and didn't have kids too. So it's, it's one thing. I think a lot of secular people, once they have a wife and children or a husband and children, they can rationalize and go, okay, this is my purpose. I'm a parent now. And they kind of make a purpose, even in a purposeless world, in a meaningless, world, they could find some kind of a meaning if they have children. But so many people today are doing this dink lifestyle, like, dual income, no kids thing. And and without religious structure. I mean, I talk to my friends at work all the time and I'm like, listen to me, because they think I'm nuts. I go to church every Sunday and, I'm always trying to talk to them about it's funny because I never evangelize. I don't ever mention Jesus when I evangelize because I know people's reaction to it. You get the Protestant reaction. So I'm always trying to get to like a deeper, just something a little deeper, just like, I'll talk about what's going on in the culture, things like that. But whenever I do it, it's even though they think I'm crazy, I try to tell them, like, if you don't give your children something to believe in, like if you don't raise your children with a religion, the rainbow religion is coming for them. If you don't give them something to believe in, they will believe anything, and they're going to go into school. And you may think like, oh, we are a conservative household. People don't realize. I don't care what you think. You are sending your kid out to go get programmed at college. If you send them to college, and they will come home and they will hate you. I have family members that sent their kids to college. The daughters came home and won't even talk to them anymore. It's crazy.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Even if people don't think that they're following a religion, so like that lady who just is going on and on about like, hey, you're weird, etc., she's still following her own religion. It's just satanic self-worship in some form. Because think about it, everybody in one form or another, right, is a slave to something, right? St. Paul talks about in Romans 6, our Lord talks about this in Matthew 6, that whatever you give yourself over to, that's your master, you're its slave, etc., right? Whether it's sin unto death, righteousness unto eternal life, etc. So these people might be like, hey, look, you're insane. You're following this dead guy 2,000 years ago, and you're reading this book written by men, etc., etc. But then I would turn back and I'd say, but yeah, you're following your own passions. You can't even stop watching pornography. You can't put down the bottle for 5 minutes and actually do something with your life.
Well, there's something to the saying. I don't know where it comes from. I wish I could give credit to where I heard it from. I just know in my travels, listening and reading, I've heard it. But every atheist is carrying around the dead corpse of the God he doesn't believe in on his back. Okay, so really think about what that's saying there. Every atheist is carrying the dead corpse of the God he doesn't believe in on his back. So whatever it is, like if pornography is you got to realize what a God is. A God is just anything you put in place of God. So if you're addicted to something, that is the corpse of the God you claim you don't believe in, just dragging your soul down to hell. It really is what's happening. So these people who claim they don't believe in God are quite literally serving a God that is dragging their soul down to hell. It's a great saying. I wish I knew where I heard it.
No, that is an epic saying. I think with the conversion of Candace Owens, and I pray that Peterson's right on lockstep, because you're right. Like, he approaches the faith from a different perspective. He doesn't deny anything, but he's looking at it from the perspective of, I think, like what Russell Brand is, and a lot of these guys are. Like, when we look at the faith, typically we look at it from the angle, and it's both are right, but the angle of we have sin and we need a savior, and that's true. A lot of them are looking at it from the perspective of this world has suffering, insane suffering. You see it online all the time. So what is the solution? And so Peterson, who theorizes like Christ is the ultimate person who defeated suffering. He went through suffering. He triumphed over suffering. Like, what is greater than torturous death, but then rising from the dead? I think when you look at him, now Candace, and hopefully others, what you're going to see is that, number one, Christ is with his church, and he's bringing lots of good people into the church. But two, you're going to see these intellectual minds are going to be shaping, if you will, the mainstream dialogue of Catholicism, I think, for the better. I mean, shoot, I wish we had like 500 Candace Owens showing up into the church and being able to really push the church, I think, in a good, healthy dialogue direction.
Well, that's what's going to happen, right? Candace isn't going to come on and start telling everybody to be Catholic. She's going to do kind of what Michael Knowles does, which is just talking about these deeper Catholic concepts. And it's funny, like, if you just speak about the deeper Catholic concept, people go, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense to me, because a lot of people have this repulsion to Catholic thought just because it has the name Catholic to it. But if you just start talking about the philosophical grounding of things, it will make sense to people. And I think guys like Jordan Peterson said something recently. He said, when he was in that EWTN interview, the guy was like, well, are you going to embrace what's holding you back from embracing the faith of your wife? And he goes, I don't think anything's holding me back. He goes, well, what's preventing you? He goes, nothing's preventing me. He said, I exist on the margins, is what Jordan Peterson said. Now, I think what Jordan Peterson means there is that he's still trying to have conversations with people, and he doesn't want to be put in a box by those people, right? He's still trying to have conversations with people like Sam Harris and people. And once he says, I'm Catholic, those guys are going to just write him off as just some Catholic. Where he wants to exist on the margins. He wants to be on the margins where he's like, okay, I'll talk to the atheist about Christianity, and then I'll talk to the Christian about technology. And I'll talk, like, he really does want to exist in this marginal arena and not be put into a box. But I think that is eventually going to fail. Like, you can't exist in this formless void. He's going to eventually come to a point where he has to stake a claim on what he is, because that's, you know, what does Dante say about the lukewarm person? Like, in eternity, he chases a white flag forever. Like, for all eternity, you chase a white flag because it's a flag that means nothing. Like, you're just chasing nothing for eternity.
Exactly. And so that's why I think that he's going to have to get to a point where if he's saying Christ is the ultimate person triumphing over suffering, then I'm like, okay, but then what do you say about this guy? Not just he's this guy who does this. Like, what do you believe about him? Like, if you truly believe and are teaching that this guy is the one who triumphs over suffering, then why don't you accept the solution that he gives? You know what I'm saying? Not just acknowledging the fact that he is a doctor, but taking what the doctor gives.
Yeah, man, it's interesting times, right? Like, seeing all these bigger names convert, man. It's
cool. I like it. This is why there's just still so much hope. I mean, it's so easy to be black-pilled sometimes, but then it's like, bro, how the heck do you get, you know, all within 1 year fiducia, but then Candace Owens converting? You're like, what?
And the crazy thing is, none of these people are converting to this wishy-washy version of the faith being presented under this pontificate. None of them. Every single one of these intellectuals are being attracted to the intellectual tradition. They're going back and they're studying what the church fathers said, or they're studying what Thomas Aquinas said, or these are the things that are attracting people. None of them are being attracted to the spirit of Vatican II and ecumenism. Nobody. It's this generation that is in there will not be there forever, guys. It's just as simple as that. We're looking at the dying gasps of the hippie generation, man. Like, they're going to be gone soon. You might have some lingering side effects in the next 5-6 years, but I really do think within a decade, you're going to see that just plateau and drop off, and you're going to start getting more guys that join the priesthood because they fell in love with the faith under Benedict, and you'll start to get rid of a lot of this nonsense, in my opinion.
I agree. That's why I do think, like, give it 10, 20 years max, and you're going to see, I think, a really cool tidal wave of not just conversion, but also like restoration in priesthood, formation, liturgy, all kinds of stuff. Because, like we pointed out, Candace, you know, it looked like she converted in the London Oratory. It was kind of hard to tell exactly where it was, but then you look behind her, what do you see? It's like the traditional mass altar cards that are behind her with the priest. So it's like, okay, she's clearly, with her husband being a trad, right?
So wait, the London Oratory would be the Anglican Ordinariate?
No, so this is an oratory in London that does the traditional rite of mass.
Oh,
And
okay.
what was really cool is, again, now I'm speculating with this part. There's 2 photos that she puts on X, right? There's the one that everyone's posting where it's her and the priest smiling, but then there's the other one where they're going into the church. And I don't know how many of you guys know this, but again, like in the traditional rite, she's coming from a Protestant background. In the traditional rite, when you come into the church, what the church priest does is he gives you like the edge of his stole, and you follow it like a rope into the church, and you go all the way up to the altar rail. When you get at the altar rail, what do? You profess the Tridentine Creed, which is a longer version of the Nicene Creed. Basically, it's all the Nicene Creed plus here are all the stuff the Protestants got wrong, right? And I'm going to affirm all of the truth. Yeah, it's really cool. The Society of St. Pius X still does this, and this was the common practice before Vatican II, is that when you were Protestant, you became Catholic, you would renounce your Protestantism, and you go line by line. You're like, I renounce faith alone. I renounce, these heretical teachings that Mary was a sinner and not perpetual virgin, etc. Right? I profess that the Pope is infallible under these circumstances, etc. You go through all of that, right? And then you're brought into the church through the other sacraments, etc. And so I don't know if she went through that. Again, it's speculation, but as a server who's done this plenty of times, it looked like that's what she was doing.
Well, George Farmer, her husband, clearly loves the traditional liturgy. I mean, he was on with Tim Gordon today. I didn't have a chance to catch it. I was sleeping. But he was also on with Taylor recently. And you can see, like all of these guys that are, it's funny because for all the defense you hear of even from the Pope splainers of the Novus Ordo, every one of them do everything they can to escape it. Whether they go to an ordinariate, a Byzantine liturgy, or whatever they can do to get away from the Novus Ordo, they do, as they sit there and they defend the Novus Ordo. Dude, that kid Antonius really has me at a point where I think Westerners that go to a Byzantine liturgy are LARPing. Like, dude, stop it. You don't have this Eastern mystic spirituality, dude. Just go to a traditional Latin mass. Go to the Tridentine mass. You don't belong in a Byzantine liturgy. I don't want to hear it. It's one thing if you're Greek. It's one thing if you are, from the East. But for a Westerner to embrace this Byzantine liturgy, I understand if that's your only option other than Novus Ordo. Like, I get that. But a lot of these guys, especially like you get like Matt Frad, Trent Horn, those guys, like they know there's something wrong with the Novus Ordo. They don't want to be, I don't know. I don't want to say why they do it. I don't want to ascribe motives to them, but it seems like they want to get away from the Novus Ordo, but they kind of don't want to be associated with the traditional Latin mass guys because they have this reputation. So they go and they find the Byzantine liturgy. And it's like, well, I go to this liturgy. It's like, dude, stop it. You're an American. You're from the West. Just go to the Tridentine mass, man. What are you guys doing?
I remember whenever Matt Frad was in the Byzantine world and was like, so you go to a Byzantine parish in the deep South in Georgia as an Australian. Like, this just sounds really weird. I think
weird. Well, Grover's saying, say that to Matt's face. I think I did the first time we had him on.
Like, I think you did too, yeah.
I think I did say that to him. It's there's something about, and I'm not, dude, I like Matt. Me and Matt talk. Like, I'm not like, everybody takes like the slightest little comment about somebody as if it's like I'm insulting them. Has nothing to do with that. I'm talking in general. Just go to the Tridentine liturgy, man. You guys gotta stop it. Stop LARPing. We're Westerners here. Embrace the traditional Western Latin liturgy, man. You guys have to just get back to what we are. We are the Latin church, and we have to get away from this modernism, especially, and we have to embrace the traditional Catholic faith. This is what's converting all these intellectuals. Get away from this nonsense.
100%. I guess, so one, I agree. I think it's even it's like either in canon law or somewhere it's written down where it says something to the effect of like, yeah, the rite of your baptism is the rite you're supposed to stay in, generally speaking, unless there's like some weird cause for not. But have you noticed this, Anthony? Like every single major, we're talking to Thursday. Have you noticed that every single major Catholic influencer, by and large, right, if you will, it's either Latin Mass, Ordinariate, or Byzantine parish.
I
Or
don't
if
know.
they do go to the Novus Ordo, it's like this exalted high unicorn Novus Ordo. I still criticize that, of course, but like that's where they go. I haven't found one Catholic influencer who just goes to what people will call a regular parish. I've just never seen that.
So okay, so Gideon's in here, right? So I don't know Gideon's heritage, but I would like to talk to him about this. That would be an interesting conversation. Good boy, Thursday. That's that. Look, part of me wants to say you're better off with the Novus Ordo than the Byzantine liturgy, but I won't say that.
You make me go crazy.
I won't say that because at least you're going to the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. But I'm just saying, like, we are from the West. Like, just we got to stop trying to escape our heritage, man. This is our birthright. Like, we need to embrace our birthright. But yeah, it's part of me thinks the people that attend the Unicorn Novus Ordo are some of the most selfish people out there. And I know this is a controversial take, but it's like, okay, you found this Unicorn Novus Ordo where it's said ad orientem. They only have communion on the tongue. They don't have girl altar servers. Like, you found this one unicorn, and you will defend the Novus Ordo as if the rest of Western Christendom isn't dealing with a liturgical wasteland. Like the rest of us, you go to your typical Sunday parish, and it's just like, what this is a Protestant service at this point. This isn't even, I mean, we have something to do on Sunday at 12 or 1 o'clock. And my options are attend the Novus Ordo or go to the chapel or go to the SSPX. Those are the only two options, because the Sunday mass the Tridentine mass I could go to, like a diocesan, would be 11:30, but it's an hour and a half away, or 12:30, but it's not even this Sunday, it's every other Sunday. So I would miss my event Sunday. So I'm going to have to wake up at 7 a.m. and just go to the chapel Sunday. Otherwise, I'm going to go to some liturgy that is so atrocious that it could be damaging to my kid's faith, because it's bad. Like especially my local parishes are so bad.
Yeah, I actually, so you know what's funny? Even it's tangentially related. We all know about like those confession horror stories. I don't know if you have any confession horror stories where it's like the priest tells you something so like off the wall or something. But I recently, so there's around me like 5 or 6 parishes. And I typically go to one parish, right? It's the parish that I go to for mass, for the priest that's there, because, you know, he's kind of like my steady, regular confessor, etc. Well, recently I was occupied with, so for those of you guys who don't know, my grandfather passed away. So my family's been kind of like all over the place trying to get stuff ready, like selling houses and funeral preparations. So I couldn't go to my normal priest. So I went to this other parish for my weekly confession. And I had gone like 4 years ago to this parish, but I had walked away because the priest had told me stuff in the confessional that were heretical. I have an episode on this on my show. But I went there and I was like, okay, I don't think the priest is there anymore. It's been 4 years. Just give it another chance. I just need to run in and out, if you will. Go in there. I hear the confession, right? Priest sounds nice, etc. Go through everything. He gets to the form. And what made me really nervous is, number one, when he exited the room and he came into the confessional, he was an older priest, but he's wearing a tie-dye stole.
Oh boy.
So you got old priest from an older generation tie-dye stole. So you're already kind of sweating bullets like, oh no, is this gonna be rough? Go in there. He hears my confession, gives me the form. He makes up a form. He literally makes up a form of absolution. It wasn't, I absolve you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It was like, I forgive you of all your faults, of all your worries, of all your concerns, of all your sadness, and I bless you in God's name. Amen.
So you didn't even get legit absolution.
And so what I was like, Father, that's not the form. And he's like, well, it's the one I learned in seminary. I'm
wow.
Like, what? So
wow.
I walked out of the room of the confessional. There's like 6 people right in line. And I'm when you meet me in person, I'm pretty quiet.
You're an introvert in real life. An introvert.
And then we're in a quiet church, and I walk out and I'm like, just to let you guys know, Father is making up the form of absolution, and these are invalid confessions. My recommendation is find a different priest.
Did anybody leave the line?
No, they were all just kind of standing there like, what? I don't know.
Yeah, because they probably just thought you were a nut.
They probably did. And I tried to explain, I said, like, the form is what, the priest is supposed to say to forgive sins, etc. He's just making it up. Crazy, crazy stuff. And so, yeah, it was like,
part of why I started seeking out tradition was because I was at this is before I knew the traditional Latin Mass. This is like 2016, 2017. I go to a Novus Ordo liturgy, and it was a visiting priest. And while we were there, he gets up during his homily and he says, well, during the creed, we are going to say, for us men and women and our salvation. Then he says, we're going to hold hands during the Our Father. And he walks down from this sanctuary and holds hands with the congregation during the Our Father. The reading that Sunday was John 1. And he goes, I'm not crazy about this reading. I'm going to switch it. And he reads a different gospel than was supposed to be read that week. Like, dude, I was sitting in, and I'm like, I'd never been exposed to tradition before. I never even knew what the traditional Latin Mass really was. Like, I had heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. I was so horrified that it was the only time I had gotten up and walked out of Mass. Like, I was furious. I went in and complained to the regular priest afterward. I was like, this was insane. It was just the most narcissistic. That's all you can say. It's narcissistic. Yeah. This priest thought the whole thing was about him. For us men and us women in our salvation, like this whole thing where he just wanted everybody to know he was protesting what the change. He made everybody say the responses before Benedict changed them. So it wasn't and with your spirit, it was, and also with you, like all these things. He was just this old queen from the 60s, and he just wanted to make the Mass about himself. I just remember being so furious that was when I started like really seeking out what the heck is going on in the church. And I think right around that time I discovered Taylor, and then I find the traditional Mass and all that stuff. It was just an insane experience I had. That was the craziest Novus Ordo experience I had ever had.
But can you picture if you were to put someone again like Jordan Peterson in either that confessional or that Mass? Like, they would have just walked out and said, especially, you don't have to be a Catholic scholar to just see like, yo, this is wacky. They would have said, how is this the religion of the man walking up with the cross on his shoulder up to Golgotha to be crucified? That doesn't make sense. And that whole idea, especially as you mentioned, like he comes down, right? The priest comes down, holds hands with the crowd, saying the Our Father. I'm surprised at that moment he doesn't say like Our Father and Our Mother. Like, you're surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that was probably the craziest experience I ever had, but I've also had just like subtle little wacky things happen. I mean, I watched I was at a parish where there were 3 priests, 2 deacons, and in the middle of the homily, somebody had a heart attack. It was my friend's father had a heart attack, and no priest went over to give him last rites. No, like, it was just the most awkward thing. That it was just like a couple of people like carried him outside, and the guy died at the church. It's like there's 3 priests there. One of them could have gone over and given this man holy unction. Like, what is going on? It's almost like I had this feeling like they don't believe the power of the sacrament. Like, it just left me feeling that way. I mean, I don't want to, again, put motives in people's hearts, but I was there for a communion. This was like 2 years ago. I was there for a friend's communion, and his father-in-law, his wife's father, had a heart attack mid-Mass. And I just remember being horrified. I remember talking to Father Nix about it. And it's like the homily is kind of a pause in the Mass.
Exactly.
The homily is actually a pause in the Mass. So if especially that this happened during the homily, it would have been okay for the priest to stay. It wasn't like he was in the middle of the Roman canon. I could understand continuing with that, but there were 3 priests there on top of that. Like, one of those priests could have gone down because it was a communion, like a first communion. So all 3 priests were up in the sanctuary. It just could have been handled so much better. And I just remember thinking, like, man, so many people were probably turned off by what they saw there. Like what is a priest if not someone to help you handle your transition from this life to the next? Right? Like, that is the whole essence of your being, is to help us transition from this life to the next. That should have been like, whoa, problem, let me jump into action. It's like your superpower.
What do you think? Here's my question for you, Anthony. What do you think St. Alphonsus Liguori would say to the state of the church, particularly in the West that we're in right now?
Probably a lot of similar things that you say. He
I
would be
find,
talking about a counterfeit church. He would be talking about the eclipse of the church. He would sound like Vigano. I mean, to be honest.
I think he would also just say like one, where is all of your guys' like genuine love for Christ? You know, like your hearts are so like it's like an ocean has been poured on your hearts that should be like the Sacred Heart, if you will, burning in charity with Christ. And like I think he'd probably just say to the priests like how many calluses have grown over like that tender heart that should be there. Because that's the thing. Like I'm not a priest, but if you see a priest as a spiritual father and you're a priest and you see like your congregation as your spiritual children, and you just let one die, that's just like letting your physical child die, and you just don't pick up a finger about it. Again, I'm not trying to judge the priest harshly, but I'm like, this is insane. Like it's
They
crazy.
don't see themselves as fathers.
It sounds like they just see themselves as like, you know, yes men to a system. Like it's a job that they're supposed to do.
And administers like they're not father, like they've lost that tender fatherly heart for their children, and they don't see the parish as their spiritual children, making sure they get to heaven. Like you read some of the saint priests, right? And all of them, like there's that one story, I forgot which saint it was. He like brings his friend out into the cemetery and he goes, "These are my saints," or something. You know, it's like they all saw themselves as that. Hey Nick, sorry for bothering your confession, but wanted to offer encouragement. Also, it was very interesting confession experience.
Yeah, it was different, that's for sure.
Wait, but what is he saying there? Hey Nick, sorry for bothering you at confession. Oh, what did this person meet you?
I don't think so. Brady Hayes. I don't think so. But
Okay.
maybe we have met. Maybe we have met.
Like Saint John Vianney would weep. Like they've really lost this sense that, and you can see it in the confessional, especially the older priests, they'll dismiss a lot of your sins and just say like, "Oh, that's not a sin. Don't worry about that." Like they all have these calluses on their hearts, and I think ecumenism is a big part of that, right? This false sense of mercy, like, "Oh, let's just have a conversation. We just need to love everybody. It's not that big. Dogma is not important. We just need to love everybody." That's crazy. I don't know. Like to me, that shows a lack of charity if you're unwilling to share the truth with somebody. I mean, there's a way to go about it. You could do it tastefully, you know, like you don't just go around yelling at somebody in a same-sex relationship, you're going to hell. But there's ways to subtly have these conversations. Like I know somebody with same-sex attraction in my life, and they grew up, the mother was Catholic, the father was Greek Orthodox. So the way I would talk to him is like, "Hey, I would love to go experience." This was a long time ago, until my position on bizlarping came about. But I was like, I would like it if you took me to like a Byzantine liturgy. Like I would like to experience that. But it was just a way to start a conversation and not come off like pointing the finger, like you're doing this, you're doing that. It was just a way to kind of bring a conversation toward faith. Like there's ways to talk to people, but you always share the truth. You don't withhold the truth from people.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think you're right. If you give people a false sense of security, right, then basically what you're doing is you're legalizing presumption, right, in the church. Where do we find these priests? I think they're commonly out there. Of course, I think that the younger priests are better, right? So I think it does kind of depend on where you're at, right? And so that's why I kind of joke about like when you see an older priest and you're not at a trad parish, you're probably like, "Oh, this could be interesting," and it can be. But, you know, they're out there. And I think it goes back to just this reality that, you know, sometimes I think we're told by priests all the time, like, don't be scrupulous, don't be scrupulous. And you shouldn't. Like, legitimate scrupulosity is a problem, etc., right? Because it's despairing God's mercy. You need to have hope in Christ, take advantage of the sacraments. But I think that we as a church and as a people struggle way more with presumption. I mean, just think about it. It's like, especially if you come from the secular liberal American world where your whole life is literally just make it what you want to be as long as you don't hurt anybody, right? And then you dive into the church, it's like, okay, here are all these commandments all of a sudden, right, that I got to keep. Well, okay, but I can just go back to confession tomorrow, right? What's the big deal? I'm not hurting anybody. It doesn't
Yeah.
really hurt me. I enjoy the sin, etc. Why can't I? Right? I know it's wrong, but I gotta live, man, etc. Whatever the excuse will be. And so when priests aren't teaching catechism, when they're not just preaching sermons that are like catechism anymore, you have ignorance, you have despair, and it's not helping people. I
Yeah.
don't think every priest needs to be a theologian, but at least catechize your flock.
I do think there is a danger that we have to be cautious of in because they've done so much of this lovey-dovey nonsense to go so hard the other way to swing the pendulum back and just see God as this moral, that I think that's where scrupulosity comes from. And I think a lot of that has to do with father wounds.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that has to do with like father wounds because I've had conversations with people where their whole understanding of receiving love from their parents had to do with performing, right?
Yeah.
And like they didn't get love from their parents if they didn't do exactly what they were supposed to do. And I think there is a way you can fall into that, thinking that God's just this moralist standing over you waiting for you to make a mistake. Like we do probably need to talk a little more about God's love and God's mercy, but not the way they do.
Yeah, exactly.
The way they do is just this false mercy. It's just not legit. It's not real, and where I think there has to be a way in our circles where we talk about it, where it doesn't come off as mushy and nonsense. It's like the love of God and God's actual mercy, because I think it's easy to fall into despair and when people do fall into despair, they actually will go the other route and fall into that nonsense fake stuff because they just found it too hard on the one side.
Yeah. Mrs. Homemakers, right? Like there's a lot of traditional people, myself included, especially whenever I first became Catholic, who were, filled with scrupulosity, anxiety, etc. And I think that what the mean is between presumption and despair, right, is hope, right? That's just what it is. Like there's the theological virtue of hope. The two sins against it are presumption, despair. But then like, what's a good model for this? I think it's the Sacred Heart. You look at the Sacred Heart, and on the one hand, right, you see the heart of Christ bursting with fiery love for the world, right? But yet you see it encircled with a crown of thorns, right? Sin offends God, but look at what he is giving you. He's giving you his heart. He's giving you his love. So sin is this separation between you and love itself, right? Love is there for you. Love is there waiting for you, but sin is that great person in the middle. It's like if you're married or if you have a boyfriend and girlfriend and you love that person, sin would be like another person or a habit or whatever, right? Getting in between y'all and dividing you up. And it's, to the nth degree with God. And so I think the way we get that in preaching, and again, this is just for the random priest who maybe watches the show, emphasize the balance in the Sacred Heart. Like sin does wound God. Like our sin made the cross necessary, but yet it's the love of God that triumphs over our sin, right? And can ultimately move us to true repentance.
Yeah, I think, it's got to be difficult to be a priest and give penances, man, because
very difficult. Yeah.
In part, like the typical penance you're getting is, go say 3 Hail Marys, right? Or go say an Our Father, which, it's not a real penance. I mean, it's like it takes you 30 seconds when you get out of the confessional to go and do that. Like the best penance I've ever gotten was when I had gone to, this was the priest that I was going to repeatedly. And when I had gone and confessed the same sin 2 or 3 times in a row, he said, listen, I know you're saying you have a firm purpose of amendment, but I want you to set your alarm for 3 o'clock every day. And I want you to pray the rosary every day at 3 o'clock. And like, with no end to that. Like he didn't say do it for 3 days. Like he was like, I want you to set an alarm every day for 3 o'clock. This is the hour of mercy. And that penance was tricky, but it got me to root that sin out of my life. Yeah. Like it's, and I'm not saying every priest needs to do that with every penitent in the confessional, but I do like when a priest gives me something a little tailored toward what I'm struggling with, like I've had a couple of priests give me specific litanies to pray, which I like that. Like just tailor it to me a little bit, to what I'm struggling with, whether, if I'm going in and it's pride or something like that. Like I would almost want a priest to give me a penance and say, get off social media for a period. You
Yeah.
know, like that would be a good penance, especially if I'm confessing struggles with social media. Like, okay, well, I want you to give up social media and I like, of course you could take that on yourself, but there's something different about when a priest gives it to you as a penance and your absolution is kind of linked to it, you know?
Yeah. You actually are bringing up a subject I'm so passionate about. So the Council of Trent talks about in their section, in their canons on the sacrament of penance. And I'm going to answer, Dominicanus' question to me in a second, because he is a really good question, I think. But the Council of Trent has this massive section that talks about, to a priest, a penance is supposed to be geared toward the penitent, right? So it's going to make sense, right? But the big thing they say is that it has to equal whatever the sin committed. So you know, when you see priests typically now giving, like, you know, say 3 Hail Marys and that's it, that's probably not what it is. Like if you read St. Alphonsus, he'll talk about like, yeah, it should be at least a rosary if you've committed a moral sin, something like that. But they tell you why. It's not just that you're repaying, if you will, this temporal justice back to God, but it's also because if the priest doesn't do this, the priest receives that person's temporal punishment, if you will, upon themselves. And they're going to have to pay it off in purgatory. Or in
Well, that's what,
picture.
Right. So if a priest gives you a light penance, he is supposed to go and do penance on your behalf.
Exactly. And that's what St. John Vianney would do. He would give his penitents, right, lighter penances, but he would be doing
he
it
would
all
do
the
the penance on their behalf. Like that's a true mediator. Like that is somebody who takes upon himself. Like that is a participation in the sufferings of Christ right there. A priest that does something like that.
It is. And when you take into effect, like even your story, I like your story because like if a person's if you're out there watching and you're a person that's constantly going back and confessing the same thing, right? You only need to ask yourself just one question. Do you have that firm purpose of amendment?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know, like if you do, just ask yourself like, okay, am I trying to avoid this sin? Am I trying to put like barriers in place, etc.? If you are, good, ask the Lord for mercy and keep fighting the good fight. But if you just don't really care and you're just continuously doing the same thing, in moral theology, they call you a recidivist sinner. Basically, it's just a person who uses the confessional as a revolving door.
Yeah, you're using it as a revolving door. You're lukewarm.
Exactly. And at that point, what the priest needs to do is he needs to say, I need to withhold absolution from you. 1, for the integrity of the sacrament, just because you don't want to abuse it. But 2, this isn't helping you. You're not really that sorry. You know, it doesn't really work. And then to answer Dominicanus's question real quick, he asks, for me, why do you think trads online aren't promoting more serious study of theology? Your series on the manuals definitely be helpful, etc. Real quick answer, because I want Anthony's thoughts on my take, is 1, I think most trads unfortunately focus way too much on church politics. I've been guilty of that myself. I repent of that myself because it's easy. Content creation, you can fall into that especially easy. But I think one reason why it's not more seriously promoted is 1, you don't get a lot of views. But then 2, oftentimes I think traditionalists will fall into pride in assuming that they know everything. And the reality is that we're always needing to be taught by our Holy Mother, the Church. And so, yeah, I hope with my series, I'm able to bring more intellectual thought into Catholicism's discussion online, if you will.
Well, today's temptation was, do we go with the new document coming out on apparitions? Then I also have an article of Cardinal Sarah. You know, I had a few church things, and I'm like, yeah, that'll get clicks, but I'm just tired of the drama in the church. It's just like, I'm just tired of it. Like, I'd rather talk. I mean, I think this is a good conversation. We're talking about, you know, like even the confession thing. I have a priest that I do go to every once in a while just because it's convenient. And every time my penance is say an Our Father for world peace. And the first time or two, I was like, okay, you know, fine. But the more he gave it to me, it's every single time. And I'm like, what about saying a prayer for penance of my sin? Like, it's not just for world, but I understand, yeah, you know, there's stuff going on in the Middle East and world peace, but that's such a hippie thing to say. It's like my penance is supposed to be geared toward my actual sin and rooting this sin out of my life. And I remember when that finally hit me, like how bothered I was by that, just that he just does that every time. And I'm not criticizing the priest too much. I get these guys are kind of just products of the seminary they went to, man. Like they just are, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you remind me, the first confession I ever had after coming into the church, the penance was say the act of contrition and an Our Father. Like the act of contrition was the penance.
Oh.
And it was, again, just like here in my local town. And so, yeah, it's just wild stuff like that. Bring back. Yeah, I think to a degree it wouldn't actually be bad in some certain circumstances.
Well, did you see the climate activists the other day cloak themselves in sackcloth and ash?
Yes, it was wild.
This is a video of climate activists cloaked in sackcloth and ash. And my first thought was, if the bishops and cardinals at the Sex Summit in 2018 had done that, cloaked themselves in sackcloth and ash and begged forgiveness and God's mercy, like the church would look insanely different today.
1,000%.
But instead they went in and they justified all the things that were between adults, and they justified same-sex relations between, and it's like, holy cow, man, these guys are just inviting the wrath of God upon us. Like this is they are just begging God to give us a chastisement. All God asks is that we go and repent. And if us as a church had actually adorned sackcloth and ash, you would see the world change like quickly. But we instead we have climate activists doing this instead of us. It's crazy, man. They because there's something intuitive that they know, like that repentance. It's so weird because they'll claim they don't, but they know they need to repent. It's something so intuitive about adorning sackcloth and ash and sorrow for our crimes against God.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. You look at the story of the prophet Jonah, and what happens? It's like he goes to Nineveh, he preaches the truth. They have sackcloth and ashes, bro. They don't even let the animals eat, right? The animals have to fast. Everyone has to fast, and the result of that is the wrath of God is turned away. It says like God looked, saw their works, withheld his wrath. And the thing is, like, we don't do that now. And again, if people want to try to justify some of the actions that, like bishops and the pontificate and stuff like that do when it comes to all of these kind of loosey-goosey things, okay, you can try to justify that. That's your right, etc. But here's the thing. Even the fact, though, that it allows scandal and the world thinks that we've changed our belief is working hand in hand with demons. God, like St. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5:22, I believe it is, he says, have no appearance of evil. Don't even look like you're doing evil, because it's scandalous in and of itself. And if the world thinks we've changed, then what we're doing is Satan still, if you will, has a victory in that moment, because he gets people to think, hey, we're all good. And if people genuinely want us to change, it's crazy. One real quick thing I'll say to Gideon's point on the penances. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if you want, Gideon, reach out to me on Instagram or something. I don't know if you're on Instagram or anything like that, or reach out to me on one of my community posts on YouTube. But just like to connect. It'd be kind of fun. If you want to talk about like nerdy scholastic
Gideon,
stuff, that'd be fun.
You could, if you want, I could connect you guys. So Gideon, if you want to shoot me a DM on Twitter or something, I'll give you Nick's phone number and you guys connect. That would be an interesting conversation. I'd like to get Gideon on too, because we've been talking so much about, like, part of the conversation I wanted to talk about tonight. I keep saying tonight, thinking it's 8:00 at night. Was the Tucker Rogan thing?
Yeah.
And just Tucker on evolution, right? And it's like Gideon's one of the people he was on Frad. He debated Jimmy Akin. Like some of the things Jimmy Akin's last performance on Frad was so ridiculous.
I saw the clips. It was crazy.
So ridiculous. Like, it's just talking about aliens getting stigmata and all that. And when I had Trent on, I made a joke of it. And I was like, you're coming down on me and Taylor for the moon landing stuff. But like, that's like, all right, I don't trust my government.
Yeah.
But where Jimmy Akin's going is like, this is just so insane. Like, you think that's not going to turn off Protestant converts or atheist converts? Like, that stuff is so nuts, some of the things he talks. And I just see this inescapable link between, like, the conversation with Rogan on evolution. I didn't clip it good enough. So I think we should save it for maybe a local segment, because to really go through it, you see Joe Rogan's logic. He's like, Joe Rogan's logic is if evolution is real, humanity's not that important.
Yeah.
And the whole debate between Rogan and Tucker's like, no, human beings are important and God did create us. And if evolution inevitably leads to this, you're not that important. You're kind of just, we found a way. It's a story that they told for the creation of life, and it always links to aliens, because if evolution happened here, it happened elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it just, people that say it wouldn't contradict my Catholic faith, you're not really thinking about your Catholic faith. I'm sorry.
1,000%.
Like, it doesn't make sense. That would mean God created creatures that have intellect and reason, and they're not in his image. It just, I'm sorry, it does contradict the Catholic faith.
Yeah, no, that's really, really wacky. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because it is interesting.
All right, so I have clips. If you want, let's play the clips.
Yeah, we do. I got at least like 40 more minutes or something, so we're good.
Okay. Let me see. I don't know what. Oh wait. I don't know what order these are in, so you guys will just have to bear with me for a second. But we'll try. I think this is the right one. Let's see.
Is there any sound on your end, Anthony? Because I don't hear any sound on my end, so I'm wondering if the audience.
Oh, you don't hear it?
Yeah, not on my end. So I'm wondering, can the audience, can you guys hear it?
Yeah, guys, can you hear that? Can't hear it. Oh man, without Rob. I hear it totally on my end. What is going on?
You can just tell us what he says.
No, this is a good clip. I want to. Why did Let me see. How's the volume up?
Yeah, I think it's probably just going through an output like straight to you or something like that.
Huh. Man, I knew Rob was important, but I didn't realize how important.
We didn't know why Rob was important until this.
But you know what I could do? I could play it from my phone.
Yeah, do it that way. I was about to say.
Yeah, I'll play it from my phone. All right, let's remove that. All right. Technical difficulty. Guys, my Gen Z tech guy's not here. I don't know what to tell you. All right, let's go.
How can that be good? Well, if God creates everything, if God created the universe and God creates people, God probably creates a process. And we think that we are very important because we are very important to us. But are we very important in a universal sense? Not really. Like, if the earth just imploded and disappeared, if the sun went supernova and our whole solar system was blown to bits, the universe, it still exists.
It depends how wide.
So do you hear just the implicit logic behind evolution is humans aren't. I mean, if God created this process, and that's theistic evolution, Joe's talking. Well, if God created this process, it's just humans are just like the transhumanism thing, the alien thing. They're all very connected, man. It's like you can't escape it. Let me see what other clips I got here.
Yeah. Oh man, it's such a depressing worldview. It reminds me of whenever I was younger, first getting into this debate, and it made me ask, I heard someone state this very succinctly and wisely. You can't get mad, for instance, at like, say, school shooters or crazy people doing evil actions if you actually beat into their ideas, into their brain for years and years and years that you're no better than monkeys. Why would you be surprised that people act like baboons and apes if you've been telling them that they're apes for forever? You know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things where people are looking for some type of transcendental reality outside of God, like whether that's aliens or whatever, right? For meaning and for like an explanation to everything, also that they can justify their immoral behavior. Because what's implicit behind Rogan's statement? This whole depressed worldview, it all goes back to the reality of, I don't want to believe in God because if God does exist, then he has laws and I have to obey those laws. And if I don't, I'm in trouble. That's the implicit thing that's behind all of them.
The thing I wish guys would push back on a guy like Rogan with is, okay, Joe, besides the pelvic issues,
exactly,
what about Christianity? What do you think Christianity got wrong morally speaking. Besides, I want to just go and sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. I want to be able to watch this on the internet and not feel it's all about them not wanting to be held responsible for their actions with sex. I mean, that's all it comes down to. It's all of it. It's always that. Like, nobody's telling you, well, the golden rule is morally wrong. Nobody's telling you that, honor your father and mother is wrong. Nobody's telling you that don't steal, don't covet, all those things. Like, go through the 10 Commandments with me. Tell me which one of these is wrong. And the only ones they'll talk about are the 6th and 9th.
Exactly. 100%. And that's why at the end of the day, there's 2 religions, purity or impurity. That's all that there is.
That's it.
Because every single issue, whether it's the atheist group, the abortion group, the rainbow movement, the sexual, promiscuity realm of revolution, all of it, Marxism, communism, etc. It's all just one big explanation of, I have these desires. I want to engage in these desires. And who are you to tell me I can't engage in these desires? That's all.
So many people don't realize that Our Lady's ever virginity, like her perpetual virginity, is so intertwined with this. Yes. So I had a Catholic ask me the other day. He asked everybody. He was like, "Is there some reason that the Catholic faith needs Mary to be a perpetual virgin? Like, if she did have other siblings, is there a problem with that?" So all you have to do is look at the fruits of any Christian denomination that doesn't hold Mary's perpetual virginity and look at what they produce, right? So you look at even the church in the East and the church in the West. Look at the monastic movements that come out of that, right? Because Mary's perpetual virginity has something to do so intertwined with purity. It's not that sex is dirty, it's that there's something set apart about Our Lady and she's pure. So it led entire groups of people going off to live these lives of purity, and it leads to this insane depth of prayer that comes out of both traditions, East and West. You get this deep prayer that comes out. Then you look at the Protestants who don't hold to Mary's perpetual virginity, and you get nothing like that. You get this shallow, once saved, always saved, this faith alone stuff. You don't get any kind of a depth of a spiritual life without Our Lady's perpetual virginity. It's very intertwined there. Like, just the symbolism alone of what Our Lady's perpetual virginity is.
Yeah, no, that's a profound statement. It reminds me, actually, so on the Meaning of Catholic Monday morning show, we've shifted the show now to being kind of answering the objections of Muslims and Islam. And one of the big things that we're talking about, and we're going to talk about way more in the future, and we're going to have definitely some episodes that are going to be off of YouTube. So if you guys really want, hit me up and I'll send you guys links and stuff if you want to. Private stuff.
Rob is at work, for anybody wondering where Rob is.
I know, RIP. But when you look as an example at Islam falls right in step when it comes to Marxism and everything we've talked about when it comes to this, because Islam exteriorly, people think, oh, modest religion, right? You got women covered head to toe, men are covered up themselves, right? It's this very like modest, sacred looking religion. But then you actually go down and you read and you're like, oh, by the way, so according to the Quran and the Hadith, every single male, when he dies, right, if you will, and he's righteous before Allah, every single male will get at least 2 wives when he goes into paradise. These 2 wives, according to the discussions in the Quran, will have lovely eyes, large breasts, and will be faithful to their husbands and will be perpetual, if you will, virgins. Their virginity will always grow back. For even more holy men, they'll be able to have 72 virgins.
Yeah.
And if you look into the Arabic, what does 72 mean? 72 is a euphemistic term that means infinite. So what Muhammad made is he made his religion a religion of heaven is this massive orgy. Heaven is this massive sexual party. You look at his life. He says that men are allowed to have up to 4 wives, but yet he automatically has 12. Nothing suspicious there, right? And many are underage. All these movements, right, whether you go back to what you're talking about, they deny Our Lady's perpetual virginity. And this is why St. Thomas roasts Muhammad in the Summa Contra Gentiles. He's like, oh, wow, Christ promises, right, suffering, right, and death, but a crown of glory hereafter. Muhammad promises carnal desires and moral carnal desires.
Yeah.
That's all you
get. Where a Catholic would see that union of husband and wife as just like a hint of the ecstasy of heaven, of the ecstasy of the beatific vision, but it's not carnal. It's not about having like the union of husband and wife is just that ecstasy is a hint of what eternity will be. I got another clip or two.
Yeah.
See, guys, we normally would bring this over to locals and do this in locals. We're not going to do that, but if you guys can, please go and subscribe to our locals. We're going to do one on Friday.
Anthony needs to go to New York, so please donate.
Yeah, desperately. Let's see what this clip is.
That cares about you, you're important to the people around you.
If we don't think people are important, then what do we think is important? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Not necessarily that we don't think people are important, but if evolution is real, and if there is this constant, I don't know, but it's visible. Like you can measure it in certain animals.
You can measure adaptation.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence that in fact, I think we've kind of given up on the idea of evolution. The theory of evolution as articulated by Darwin is like kind of not true. Right?
In what sense?
Well, in the most basics.
So I love that clip because that's kind of, I mean, I had an interaction with Dave Gordon recently. I've had like the idea that thinking evolution is absurd is not some Protestant fundamentalist idea.
100%.
It's just not. It's like people should question this whole idea because what is evolution other than an attempt to explain the origins of life? It's what it is. It's like we all developed from this single-celled organism. If you ever watch one of those nature documentaries where it tries to explain the evolution of life on Earth, it is such nonsense. Like I tried to watch one recently just to like get it, and I was just dumbfounded at how ridiculously stupid it is, and how people will watch something like that and accept it on faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Accept it on faith because it's coming from the new high priest of the science community. It's so nuts. This is the new religion, and you have some scientists coming and delivering it. These are the new priests, and they're giving you the creation story. And it's just, I hate watching modern Catholics just uncritically accept this ridiculous story.
Yeah, 100%. And what's interesting to me is, like a lot of those documentaries, when they leave the realm of evolution, they're cool documentaries, right? They're shot mostly pretty cool and things like that. But all of those guys, all those scientists will admit, oh yeah, someone had to make this beautiful documentary. Oh, but nothing created the world. Just wild takes. And that's why when you get back to just the basics of the evolutionary theory, and you're like, okay, so you're telling me that all of the observable universe is contained in, a piece of matter, if you will, smaller than a period on a page. And then out of just nowhere, it's triggered to all the observable universe. Okay, well, if that's the case, what sets it off? Right. Every cause, every cause has to produce a great result. The great result is everything. Then what is that cause? So to me, I don't understand why, again, the only reason that they don't want to believe in God is because of pelvic issues. Because like we could easily say like, hey, sure. Like, okay, I can understand the idea of nothing, right, being produced and then there's everything, right? But you need something first, and that's God, right? I get that. I believe in that. Makes sense. Makes philosophical, consistent. But you don't want to accept it because at the end of the day, you don't want to get married, or you want to keep watching porn, or you want to hook up with another dude as a dude, right? That's the only real reason why.
It always does eventually come and boil down to that.
Because notice that they say, well, don't you see, Anthony, like animals engage in homosexuality, therefore it's natural.
It's crazy. Oh man, the idea that all of these things are connected though has really come into focus for me. The alien thing, the transhumanism thing, the like all of it. It's just, they're so connected. The shot during the thing in 2020, like all of it, like they're all just this new religion. And when Catholics just go and act like it's theistic evolution and just like, they're not even offering a counter process. They're just going, oh, don't deny the sign. You just sound stupid when you deny the sign. It's like, you're not giving me a rational, coherent way to understand theistic evolution. Even like, I get that natural selection happens, but even if you read E. Michael Jones's book, Logos Rising, he really rips evolution. Like, I think that was the downfall of evolution for me, because he's like, okay, so you have this single-celled organism. Like, how does an eye develop? Like, what, you have these light sensitive cells? Like, how does that become an eye? It's ridiculous for nature to select something that doesn't exist. You have a single-celled organism. How does nature select something else from that single-celled organism? There's no way for nature to naturally select something that doesn't exist. It's incoherent. It makes no sense. It also shows like a purpose at hand, as if like the single-celled organism, like the inevitable outcome would eventually be something conscious that can observe the universe and be aware of itself. The idea that the universe created something that would be aware of the universe is so preposterous.
It's so insane too, because every single society is religious in some form or fashion. They're all religious. We all have this desire. Like, one thing that the modernists got right is that they correctly observe that we all have this God-sized hole in our heart, right? That wasn't unique to the modernists, right? They would call it like your religious sentiments. Everyone has these religious sentiments. The question is, the problem with them though, is they don't give you a good answer. The Catholic says, hey, when we observe the universe, we see that everything is ordered towards something. An eye is ordered to sight, an ear is ordered to hearing, right? Everything's ordered for something. And yet we all desire religion all across the world. And we all
see that now more than you've ever seen it before, because the new atheist movement is falling apart. Even that new atheist movement got wrapped up with the woke religion. So they were infighting amongst each other. You see religion everywhere now, and people that are paying attention see it. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's something about when you take religion away from people, you can't just exist as some kind of a moral society that exists on reason and logic alone. No, religion is innate. Like, there's something innate about every human being that needs to know where they came from, and that worship, dude, like God made us homo liturgicus, like homo liturgicus. There's something about liturgy. Even when you watch the riots in 2020, like the kissing of the feet and the like, this is all religious symbolism. All of it. You see George Floyd with a halo over his head. None of this is by accident. This is all just this inescapable truth that religion is innate in humanity, and God made us that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why when you see, like you mentioned the riots, you see everyone kneeling. Everyone's doing physical gestures, right? Trying to engage in some type of bodily action. And ultimately,
it's very incarnational and Catholic. It's like, ironically, right?
1000%. And that's what's so crazy, because these individuals, it's like, I love St. Paul's analogy when he says that it's like we're running a race. Every single person can relate with what I'm about to say, but I think especially dudes, like we all feel like we're running this race. Like we have this goal that we want to reach. Maybe we can't even put it into articulate words, but we know that we want to have some type of mission and have a point in our life where we say it was done, or like we've reached the goal. Atheism can't give you that, because it says you're an accident by chance, and that there is no ultimate purpose to life aside from what you decide to assign to it. And again, this is why people are going to fall back into pelvic issues. Or when you look at something like Woodstock, right? You see all of these revolutions, whether it's Woodstock or 2020, etc., they all are revolving around, I have the power to create, right? I want to be the one who creates and brings life into this world. I am the one who wants to be in charge of this. And ultimately what it is it's satanic domination of I am God. That's what man wants when he's not submitting to God.
Yeah.
He wants to.
Yeah. It goes back to that comment earlier. Every atheist is carrying around the dead corpse of the God he says he doesn't believe in. You know, it's like, it's just, religion is inevitable. And homo liturgicus just means man who was made to worship. Like God made us that way. So my battery on my computer is dying. Battery is low. You should plug in your device. I don't know why it's not plugged in. I thought it was, but all right. This is a good place to wrap up. Nick, it's always fun talking with you. What are you doing? Oh man, we gotta figure out what we're doing Friday. We have no guests. Are you free Friday or?
Yeah, I'm free Friday.
All right, so we'll probably get you back on Friday. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about. And yeah, guys, please go subscribe to our locals. I know, look, we try to do things differently than every other Catholic channel out there. We probably try to just have like different kinds of conversations. I don't know. I mean, a lot of guys are trying to do different things, I guess. But if you guys enjoy us, please go support us. It's $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee these days. you go to 7-Eleven.
1 gallon of gas these days.
It really is. It's crazy how much everything costs. So if you could throw $5 a month our way, it would be greatly appreciated. And we will see you guys on Friday. Let me see if I can find an outro song. Man, I hate not having Rob here, man. Let me see. What do we got here? Yeah, we went with the off the rails intro because I figured this whole show would be off the rails, but I think it was actually better than I thought it would. You know, I thought it would be a little more chaotic, but I don't know. I don't see an outro. Usually we go with, all right, we can go with this. All right, guys, we will see you on Friday.
This goes out to all you men out there who are inclined to submit yourself to the lowest faculties in the most pathetic manner. You effeminate man think you were created in order to consume endless amount of pleasure without any consequences? Put your damn video games and smartphones down and pick up something heavy. Do something arduous for once. Pray daily. Submit yourself under the interior discipline. Learn a trade. Buy some land. Get married and have lots of kids so that may you one day raise a